Okay, yes, what do you all want to know? That's right, okay. Okay, we start. Right? Dr. Pornthip gave evidence today, and of course she has stated her position. Insofar as she is concerned, she maintains earlier evidence, and she confirms that there were pre-fall injuries, and of course she says that she is very sure that it is not suicide. So as far as we are concerned, I think we have done our part. So now it's really going to be up to the coroner to make a decision as to which of the experts he chooses to believe. Yeah? Insofar as we are concerned, we are now going to focus on the other area of the inquest, which is this new evidence that the prosecution is attempting to introduce. So for that, the court has fixed was it 1st of September, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:30 for mention, because we have informed the court that we are in the process of taking instructions and also getting various experts to assist us in terms of opinion.
How do you describe the attempt by the other side in bringing this document on the 11th hour when everything is being... Is it kind of malicious? How do you describe the action? I mean you've been a crime lawyer previously, there's supposed to be a sequence of evidence being given to the court. Kind of such a primary evidence being brought in the last minute. Do you think there's some naughtiness in it? The fact that as a lawyer and also a politician, how would you describe the feeling of the people on the road? I mean,
well, in terms of feeling of the people on the road, I think everybody knows that there is widespread anger as to how it is a document of this nature could have been suppressed in terms of not being given to us until now. Naturally, of course, we will wait for an explanation to see the reasons behind this before we decide what it is we want to do. But in terms of lawyering, certainly this is something which is completely prejudicial, completely unfair. I have termed it as an abuse of process. Why? Because, as I said earlier, we have gone through 1 year of trial, and for you to come back with a note now, something which may materially affect the entire inquest, is something which I think is completely what do you call, unheard of and unfair. Okay? Well, I think well, Dato' Razak has every right to venture his suggestions as to why it is this witness ought not to be believed. But I think what happened today reflected a lot of immaturity on part of him, because simply because it was not he was not striking at the issue. I think if you look at a university and whether or not it's recognized here, that is something which is besides the point. The question is qualification. If a person has got qualifications and is able to speak on a subject with certainty, then I think that should be the test. In any event, I think Dr. Pornthip has very clearly said that albeit our country does not recognize her university, but her university is one of the top 5 in Asia in terms of that field of practice.
In terms of our view, I think what's important to take away from today is that Dr. Pornthip indicated a concern about the bruising on the neck. That led to the exhumation, and she has now confirmed that upon examining the body itself, not just looking at photographs, that bruise was there. And she has confirmed that the bruise was significant. It's a very large bruise, and she says that in her view that it was caused by trauma, blunt force. Blunt force, that's the word she used, and that it was caused before the fall. Now that's very, very important in how to view this, because Dr. Shahidan in cross-examination had also, to my recollection, confirmed that the injuries to the neck had occurred prior to the fall as well. So when one looks at this question and asks whether there's any signs of violence or struggle or anything before the fall, now here's evidence that might point to that. So that's very important. The basis of the exhumation has actually been justified and proven. I think the second thing that we should take away from this is that Dr. Pornthip, as the director of her institute, which also oversees crime scene investigation, has said that there is a protocol to how notes like the one that is being sought to be introduced by the prosecution are to be handled. And she said that that is something that is very critical for the police. And the police would be looking at doing DNA testing, palm printing or fingerprinting of the document. And this should be done at the earliest possible opportunity. So we don't know whether these things have been done. From the looks of it, it has not. The question therefore is, what value is this evidence to the prosecution or to us? But more importantly, as Gobind has said, why this evidence was not produced earlier so that suggestions like this could have been made at the outset. Because ultimately, all evidence is to be brought before the coroner, and it is for the coroner to decide whether that evidence is relevant or not. Not for the AG, not for the investigating officer, not for anybody else. The coroner is the one who is to be making that decision. And this unfortunately was not done. So Dr. Pornthip has actually explained that the protocol, generally, she did not speak about this particular document because she didn't see it, but from her explanation, I have serious concerns about whether or not this inquiry has been undermined by the fact that this document was not produced any earlier. And I'm not sure to the extent to which now this document can be viewed as evidence, if at all. And if it can, the extent to which the coroner is in a position to make a true finding. But leaving all that aside, I think as far as we're concerned, a doctor has said credibly, an expert has said credibly, that there were pre-fall injuries to Teoh Beng Hock, and that in her view, it was possible that he was unconscious when he fell. Although she accepts that he died from the fall, the fact remains that if we put this together, this evidence, one inference is that some form of assault was carried out on Teoh Beng Hock before he fell from that window, and it's possible that he fell unconscious. Now, the inferences you draw from that, I think it's quite obvious, and that is of course what we are going to be arguing. But to be fair, there are also other ways of looking at this possibly, although I really can't see them as clearly as this one, but we'll leave that for the court to decide. But questioning and not being recognized. I don't know whether Datuk Razak means that only people who are recognized here have the qualifications to speak about these things, because by the same logic, an expert in his field qualified in a Malaysian university would not be able to give evidence anywhere else. Does that mean that that expert, perhaps Datuk Razak himself on issues of corruption, would not be qualified to speak anywhere else? I think it's with the greatest respect, I don't think it's a very sound position to take, and it's, in my view, a very embarrassing one. I mean, in a country that's looking towards becoming a knowledge-based economy and so on and so forth, I mean, I'm surprised that the MACC had to go to that length to try and discredit Dr. Pornthip. And I think the point that's being missed here is that Dr. Pornthip has nothing to gain from this. She came of her own free will. She's a highly recognized expert in her field. She's got a lot of experience behind her. She presents papers at seminars and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure why it was necessary to stoop to those levels, but I leave that entirely to Datuk Razak to explain during the course of submission. He may have his reasons. I can't see them at all.
Can you confirm she came on a pro bono basis?
I can, yeah. She's not being paid for her services here.
At this stage, will you say the inquest has failed?
I can't say for sure, because we still have to look at that document, and the coroner has to consider what to do with that document. But I would think that, I mean, the evidence has brought us to this one point in time, and the evidence to me is fairly overwhelming about the pre-fall injury. There's been no adequate explanation given by the other pathologists, and in fact, to be fair, Dr. Shaidan, as I remember, actually did say there was a pre-fall injury. Today, Dr. Pornthip said that, you know, she disagreed with Dr. Peter's suggestion that there was no prolonged compression on the neck, because she pointed to a swelling of the brain, which in her view could actually be, would in her view show hypoxia, deprivation of oxygen to the brain, consistent with some form of pressure on either the carotid arteries or the trachea and so on. She says that could result in unconsciousness. She says the edema shows that at least 5 minutes of pressure on the neck. It's hard to argue with that sort of factual analysis, and as she constantly maintained today, her analysis is scientific. And the science speaks for itself. I think that's all I have to say at this stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you.